The world needs yoga teachers. The world needs whoever you are, even if you're not a yoga teacher, like whatever you do, like the world needs that. So share that with them. Figure out a way to share it with them. Doesn't matter what anybody else is doing to share their gift. Just how are you going to share your gift to help raise the vibration of the world when somebody needs it?
That was Pedro Luna, and I'm Henry Winslow. You're listening to Dharma Talk. Hey Dharma Talkers, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't heard, we're coming to the final stretch of this podcast series. We're down to the last 3 episodes now, and I think you're really going to love this one. With everything happening in the world right now, I think we can all appreciate a little bit of levity and gratitude. And that's what my guests this week are all about. Quickly, before we get into it, I just want to remind you that if your yoga routine has been completely disrupted by the COVID-19 outbreak and you're struggling with adapting to the change, well, first of all, let's take a pause to feel gratitude over the privilege that that's even something to worry about. They say a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, a sick person only one. But secondly, let's all appreciate how amazing it is to see how the yoga community at large has adapted to the times. Studios setting up live stream classes, students maintaining their memberships to keep supporting their schools, businesses offering discounts and charitable contributions, etc. I encourage you to reaffirm your commitment to your practice at this trying time for the benefit of yourself and your broader context, the whole collective energy. Maybe all this suffering, all of this darkness, all of this fear is actually our sacred moment. There are lots of ways to do it, to keep up your practice, that is, and one of them is to get the Henry Yoga app, which for now we're giving away for $25 as an offering to the community. Get lifetime access at the discounted price when you enter code HOMEPRACTICE at checkout. Sign up at henryyoga.com. Okay, you all know these guys, yogi memes and namaste AF. Assuming you have some kind of relationship with yoga and you've spent even a marginal amount of time on Instagram, then you've no doubt come across at least one, but more likely countless memes of theirs. The yoga community archetypes, the Karen jokes, yeah, that's these guys. But who are the humans behind these memes? Are they hiding behind humor to avoid facing the realness of life? No, quite the contrary. I had a very rich and wide-ranging conversation with Pedro and Bryan about our own vulnerabilities, approaches to life's challenges, and lessons we're learning right now, many of which I think are pretty timeless and universal. In this episode, you're going to hear about what it takes to start something new and ambitious, how to let the universe prove your own insecurities wrong, and where to draw the line with digital and social media so we're still in control of our attention, but getting that feeling of connection we so crave. Of all the interviews I've done for Dharma Talk, I never would have expected that it would be my conversation with Pedro and Bryan, Instagram's favorite yoga comedians, in which a few tears were shed. This conversation got real, folks, pregnant pauses and all. And I think there's an important lesson in there. Humor and lightness aren't just luxuries to be enjoyed in times of comfort. These are important, dare I say, spiritual qualities that we can and must embrace within the full spectrum of the human experience. Perhaps it's now in the difficult times that we need it most. So yes, Dharma Talkers, we have laughs, cries, and everything in between coming up in just a few. But first, let's take a minute to thank our sponsors. This episode is brought to you in part by Warrior Bridge NYC. Dharma Talkers, Warrior Bridge can really use your support right now. Like all yoga studios and many other businesses in New York City and nationwide, they have been forced to close their doors due to the current global health crisis. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has not stepped in the way of Warrior Bridge's commitment to service and meeting students of multidisciplinary movement wherever they are. They now have their signature classes available through daily live streams, covering yoga, flexibility, handstands, and even acro, in case you're quarantined with a partner. Through the end of April, all classes will be available on a pay-what-you-can donation basis. As an FYI, Warrior Bridge is still hoping to hold their July teacher trainings in anatomy and movement and partner acrobatics, but we'll be watching how the situation develops along with everyone else. Visit warriorbridge.com for all the details. This episode is brought to you in part by Way Team Shop. Have you guys seen the Dharma Talk t-shirts, leggings, and gear for sale on my website? You think I pulled all that together myself? No way. I don't have time to manage an e-commerce platform, let alone design, produce, and fulfill merchandise to fans and supporters of the show. That's all Way Team Shop. At Way Team Shop, quote, "It's our dharma to help businesses like yours get what they need in 2020 and beyond." With a team shop, now you, your yoga studio, business, or personal brand have the ability to buy and sell your custom branded gear online and in store. Don't worry about hiring a retail manager or professional designer. Way Team Shop designs your collection, builds your shop, and manages the entire experience for only $99 per month, all with no minimum order quantities or setup fees. You can save hundreds, if not thousands, through Way Team Shop's product and design services compared to the traditional retail routes. And you'll be able to stay focused on your business while they get to work for you. Way Team Shop makes it easy for you to fill your online or brick and mortar retail section with a variety of gear while never running out of sizes again. Everything is available for sale online 24/7. Plus, they'll market and advertise your shop on their website and social media. Best of all, you keep 100% of the profit. I'll let Way Team Shop have the last word here. We are more than a store. We are your team. Get your team shop today. Head to wayteamshop.com and get on your way today. Now back to the show. To formally introduce my two guests today, Pedro Luna at Yoga with Pedro on Instagram and Bryan Holub at Yogi_Bryan on Instagram are two yoga instructors and dads who took the internet by storm in the past 4 years, creating globally recognized, funny, and relatable yoga/spiritual memes on Instagram. Pedro is the real-life human behind the @YogiMemes account, and Bryan runs at Namaste_AF. Together, they are the hosts of The Yogi Show, a podcast about yoga, mindfulness, and gratitude with a touch of humor. If you enjoy this episode, and like me, you can't resist their charm and wit, then go to dharmatalk.show and type Pedro or Bryan, that's Bryan with a Y, in the search bar, and there you'll find all the notes, highlights with timestamps, and links for this episode. And if you're looking for something to read, then check out my running list of every book ever recommended on Dharma Talk. I've got a whole library of books and recommended reading for you there. Go to henrywins.com/books and pick one out. And now, without further ado, please enjoy my interview with the Yogi Show boys and mean meme machines, Pedro Luna and Yogi Bryan. All right, here we are on Dharma Talk with the Yogi Show boys. This is Pedro and Yogi Bryan. I'm so happy to have you guys on the show. Pedro, second time for you, first time having Bryan on. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm so grateful to be here. Round 2. Here we go. What's up, Bryan?
What is up? Thank you so much. First timer here on the show. And I can't wait. Can't wait to chat with you, bros.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. Well, let's ground the situation with some context right now. I know this makes it for less of a timeless listening experience, but we've got a lot going on these days. We are in the midst of an outbreak of the novel coronavirus, COVID-19, and things are shifting pretty rapidly in the yoga community. I'm speaking right now to two guys who have sort of made a name for themselves with injecting lightness and humor into the conversation around yoga, which can tend to become somewhat serious, sometimes to a fault, but these are kind of serious times. So talk me through what you guys are going through right now. How are you dealing with all of this and bringing that humor into your life?
Dude, just trying to keep it 100, man. Just staying true to our, Brian and I talk about it all the time that we just try to stay true to ourselves and really stay in our lane. Like we like to offer that element of humor and lightness to the community. And people are looking for it. Like in these trying times, people are looking for a sense of lightening up because everything seems so dark, gloomy, and serious every time you flip on any device and look at anything. Even the energy when you walk outside. So if we can just help somebody laugh a little bit, settle a little bit, and just know that everything's going to be all right, and not take everything so serious all the time. That's all. Like my motto is share the gift of yoga with the world, but with the humor element, it's a whole other thing. And Brian and I get to play off each other and have a podcast and make funny memes, and it's really wonderful. So just let's just keep lightening it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
100%, man. And I feel a responsibility as a creator and as like comedy and the yoga and mindfulness, spirituality scene. Like I feel a responsibility. Like I really need to just, send as much love, send as much humor out to the world, because, these are definitely trying times. A lot of people are, everyone's inside their home and looking at their phone. It's like, how can I really like help and relax the world here? So I just feel like a huge responsibility, to just share this practice and share the humor out to the world. Everybody relax out there. Take a breath.
Boom.
Yeah. Take that breath.
Yes.
I'll take one of those. Take one of those from you. Thanks for permission.
Yeah. So, I went to the grocery store over the weekend and I went into that grocery store and I felt no one breathing.
Dude.
Like I just felt it. No one was breathing. Everybody's holding their breath. Everybody's feeling that panic. And it's like all three of us here, like we have to remind each other and everybody else in the world. It's like, breathe, just take a breath. Can you breathe right now? Are you okay right now? Can you breathe? Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that, everybody?
Dude, I feel really good about that. And
I got to tell you that I got to tell you, I went into one of the last outings that I did before the self-imposed quarantine period set in. Was I went to the grocery store to try to stock up on some items, and like you said, the energy in there of anxiety and panic was palpable, and actually it was beyond energy. There was actually a tangible outcome that showed me how anxious people were. And that was that I stepped away from my cart and someone stole it from me. I had to start over my whole grocery shopping journey.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. That scarcity, it creeps in. And it's super, super contagious, but I think the contagion goes both ways, right? So we, as shepherds and guides of how yoga can be embraced in everyday life, we have to be the ones that kind of shift the energy of the people around us 6 feet distance away, of course.
Yeah, right. Socially distant, but shifting for sure. I used to think about this, guys, when I used to go to like Home Depot and Lowe's to get stuff for like, back, whatever, just when times were, let's call it normal. The energy in those places, even like Walmart, those places, it would zap me. Like after 20, 30 minutes, like I just got like energy vampired. And I don't know what it was. And then now when I go to the grocery store, like I went 10 days ago or something like that, when I went to the store last, it was a real deal. And I could feel it, I could feel it. And just exactly like you're describing, Henry and Brian, man, it was a lot. It was a lot to take on. And I'm just trying to like hold space for myself, to like remind myself to breathe so that maybe others around me would feel that too.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so Dharma Talkers, you may recognize Pedro from episode 49. We talked a little bit about how he got into all of this, his origin story. But for those catching up, I'd love to get you guys to share how you worked separately. You both kind of found each other because you were working in the same, I don't even know what to call it, the same arena of social media and yoga and comedy. So how did you all start working together? Like what did it look like for you to say, hey, we should, instead of doing this separately, let's collaborate?
Brian, go.
Well, yeah, I've always been a fan of Yogi memes, and I was starting the brand Namaste AF, and I reached out to Yogi memes to do like a shout out. I'm like, hey, what are your rates? Like, can you shout me out? And
Did you know who he was on the other side?
No, I never like saw a picture of
Okay.
who he was. Like at the time, like he wasn't posting anything about his identity. And I pictured someone way different, like with the Yogi memes thing. And then I remember like I did an ad with him. And then later he started showing like who he was. And well, actually, when I did the ad, he's like, my name's Pedro. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Your name's Pedro. Like, cool. You're probably like, you know, Sarah or Karen or something, or I don't know, Carl. And yeah, he's like, hey, I'm Pedro. I'm like, okay, yeah, right. Hi, Pedro. But then, yeah, he started to show on stories who he was. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, he is Pedro. Like, he's definitely a Pedro for sure.
Pedro.
And we just like we would send like DM here and there, like, oh, that was fun. Like I would say like that's a funny meme or whatever. And he actually, so Yogi Memes Pedro did a meme contest.
Yeah.
And I was like dabbling with memes before on my page, and like I would send my friends like memes that I like made randomly, like just to them. Like I didn't have really confidence on it. And he did a meme challenge, and I ended up winning the meme challenge. And I was on his page, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm super famous. You know, like everybody's going to know who I am, you know, being on the Yogi Memes page. And then from there, like we just, I think it was like one time he like reached out. He's like, hey, why don't we jump on a call and like, just want to chat with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, like Yogi Memes wants to actually
sees the
chat
talent
with me.
in me. Yeah.
Exactly. I was so nervous. I remember sitting in the car, getting on the phone, talking with Yogi Memes, and like he wanted to know what was going on in my life. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like fangirling over here. And we just ended up chatting, and then the calls, like, you know, we would get on another call and just chat. And then like one day we were just chatting, and we're like, dude, we should do a show. And like the Yogi Show came up. We're like, oh, we both were like, the Yogi Show. And Pedro, take it from there.
Yeah, we're like, let's do the Yogi Show. So we did it. Henry, I think when we were talking, I was doing the Yogi Show live. I don't remember though when I did the episode with you back in the day. When was that?
Yeah, I think 49? So. I think it was like very much in its infancy. Maybe you were still kind of like hashing out what the idea was.
Yeah, I think it was. It was like February or something of last year that we were talking about it, and we had been doing the Yogi Show live at that time for like, I don't know, a couple months, 2-3 months. And we started it, we were just doing it on Instagram Live, and we're like having this show and this interaction with community, and like, you know, 30 minutes of like valuable content. And then we'd make memes on the thing, and it was just fun. And then we realized like it wasn't really scalable. It wasn't going to go anywhere. And I was like, okay, we need to make a podcast. So we finally met in person. So I flew out to LA. I meet Bryan. I went there for a bachelor party. Bryan drives up from Arizona, and we meet up, and we hung out, and it was awesome. I was like, let's do, we need to really do this podcast thing. Like the community needs it. And when I was on your show, Henry, I was like, man, I would love to do a podcast like Henry's doing, but I have no fucking clue how to do a podcast. and I still don't. But I'm on we're on episode 42, and I have no idea what's going on. But it's like, you know, this is all learning. And I was like, you know, this is Henry, you really inspired the show. Seriously, you inspired us to take it to a podcast. You did. And so,
awesome, thanks.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I was like, all right, like, let's do this. So I met Bryan in LA. We're on the top of Runyon Canyon Park. We walk up there, we hike. We took like 3 photos, the only photos we have together that we've ever used for promotion on anything.
Which Pedro's standing on a rock, so he's like 7 feet tall. We can't use them.
And my shirt says "Vote for Pedro" on it. What the fuck, narcissist? So then, you know, I'm flying back home, right? And I'm like, all right, we're gonna do this podcast, man. We're gonna do this thing. So we're doing all this research on like how to start it, and it took us like 2 months. And we're about to we're gonna start it. We're gonna do it. And you know, we transitioned out of the live show. And we're told everyone, hey, we're gonna do this podcast. We didn't even Henry. We had no show. We have no fucking show. And we're DMing and emailing like Keno McGregor, Catherine Budig, and we have no content. And we're like, can you guys come on our show? And they said yes. So we're like, all right, I guess we really have to create a show now. and then we did, and we're just here to, provide, the tagline of the show is yoga, mindfulness, and gratitude with a touch of humor. And really it's been like that, getting people like you, Henry, when you came on our show. I always, Henry, I don't know if you know this, I always think of you when the first question we asked you is like, how you doing? And you're in your apartment in New York City and you're like, I'm in the crux of moving. I think about the word crux. I use it all the time now. And it's because of you.
Good word.
And
great word.
So good. And I just think about the fact that, we've come all this way on a journey together through yoga, and we're able to connect with people all around the globe. And it's led to so many other fun things that we can jam on a bit. But, to wrap that part of the story up, it's like, it's really about creating community and connection and offering something, Bryan and I's unique gift, which is like humor. And that's kind of how it all started, and that's kind of where we got to for now. And it's been super fun. But if anybody's out there like, hey, how to start a podcast? Like Bryan and I always have this joke. It's like, how do I start a podcast? I'm like, don't. It's fucking hard. Henry, how hard is podcasting, bro?
It's pretty hard. I mean, it takes a lot more energy and time than I think people would think.
Oh,
because, it sounds like we're having these conversations like, oh, we have a good time, which is true. But then you don't think about all the hours that go into scheduling, like editing, marketing the podcast, and
all this
and building all the tech, the back end stuff that presumably runs on autopilot eventually. But it seems like you're always having to fix something.
It's always that way. And for listeners out there, for context, this is our 5th time trying to record with Henry. This is number 5 of Henry and us and Bryan rescheduling to get on the show. This is number 5, and it was about to be number 6, but we actually made it happen.
We made it happen. Yes, that discipline, that determination, we made it happen.
When Henry said,
isn't podcasting so rewarding though? Like, don't we agree? Like, it's so rewarding,
I love it.
Connecting, and
really
it's amazing. Like, it is worth all the work.
Bryan, I'm going to quote you on that every time you text me, like, fuck this show.
I know. I'm telling that to myself right now. So I have it. So Pedro reminds me later, and Henry does.
For sure. And for real, like Henry, like thinking about like all the people that you've had the opportunity to connect with, how amazing, and I'm so grateful for you that you've done it with all these people, and you've inspired me like, oh, maybe I should reach out to this person, because the interview is different, so if you're listening on the other end, the interview is different for everyone.
Totally. You get a completely different conversation.
Super different, super different. So, I appreciate you so much, Henry, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys too a lot, and I loved coming on your show. Let me go back to something you said a minute ago, because it kind of struck me, which was you invited all these people onto the show before you had any content, and that's a bold move, right? And I think there are people listening who maybe, whether it's a podcast or some other kind of project that they've wanted to do for a while but have yet to pull the trigger on. Was that like a tactic that you used for yourself to give yourself some accountability, or did you just not think it through? Like, talk me through that process.
Bryan will attest, there was absolutely no thought behind it. There was zero thought of just like, we're just going to ask people and then just do it.
We had zero thought, and like really we were just like blindly going into it. We're like, all right, it's Instagram. And for anyone out there, like, social media is a great platform because you can do this. You can send a direct message to like your heroes, and they may respond back to you. They may respond back to you. So that's what we did. We're just like, all right, we're going to like message this person. And we got like one out of, we got some interest, and we're like, oh my gosh. And that just built momentum. So anybody out there starting a podcast, and I'm sure Henry, you felt that way too. Like, you can send a direct message through social media and possibly get an answer.
Definitely.
Yeah. Even the fact that there's a slim chance of that is like, wow, what a cool thing that we have in front of us, a cool tool.
It's amazing.
that's available.
Yeah, it's super amazing. And I always thought, so Henry, and the other reason I didn't want to start it right away is like, I always, just like you were talking about, it's like creating the infrastructure and having it be perfect. Do I have the right microphone? Do I have the right computer? Do I know how to record it? All of these thoughts, how am I going to interview? Should I take an interviewing class? And it's like, no, all you should do is literally send somebody a question like, hey, do you want to be on my show? And then you have no choice. And then now you're doing a show, so it's like you were talking about that.
Will be revealed.
Exactly. The next steps will just come along with it and you will figure it out. So you will figure it out. It will happen. Like it will happen. Just stop trying, get out of your own way of like all the reasons you can't do something, whatever it is, whether it's podcasting, whatever it is, teaching yoga, just go do it. Just show up and just do it.
And keep going. I
love it.
And keep going. And
keep
going. Henry, I want to ask you this. How do you keep going?
You're at like 102, Henry.
Yeah. Without like, because there's been times like where Pedro has been the one that's been like, Bryan, come on. Like, let's do this. And then there's times where I'm like telling Pedro, I'm like, Pedro, come on. We can do this.
Yeah, but you're
like
only
Henry,
with you and yourself.
You're doing it. Yeah, this is your show. Like, how are you doing it? How do you get through the tough times sometimes?
Oh, that is a great question. And well, first I should say that I actually did announce last week that I'm bringing the show to a close. It's going to finish on episode 108, which is, an auspicious number.
All right.
Congrats.
Yeah. Are you closing permanently, temporary, like season break? What are you doing?
I reserve the right to reopen the show, but it has a sense of closure on it. I feel like the project is complete with 108 episodes. But yeah, I mean, to answer the essence of your question, there were definitely times where it's like, I gotta do this again. And actually, it wasn't even so much like, I always look forward to having the conversations. Like doing the actual show is amazing. And like I could have these conversations ad nauseum, like forever. I could just keep doing it. But what became stressful is like, oh, I gotta get another 5 guests lined up because otherwise I'm gonna miss my schedule. And that kind of stress really does eat at your soul.
Super eats at your soul, Oh, I feel.
But I think what kept me going through it was continually getting positive feedback from listeners, like right at like the moment when I needed it. That tended to always happen. Yes. Even if it's just like a simple email response, like "Thank you so much for doing," or a review on the Apple Podcast app. Like those things really, I mean, it seems like a small thing, but it gives you that. Way. It goes a long way. It gives you like a little dopamine hit and makes you feel grateful that people appreciate the effort and energy that goes into what you're putting out into the world. So those really kept me going. And then later on in the production of the show, around episode, I think it was episode 74, if I remember correctly, is when I first brought on outside help. I hired an engineer, Rory, who's just killing it for me.
Super helpful guy.
He's so on point and really improved the quality, like the fidelity of the sound quality and
all of it.
and the processing, like the processes for booking guests and all of that for me. So that made it a lot easier to keep going too. It gave me a second win.
We feel that, man. We feel that for sure, because without, it's like it's just like a community, it's just like when you're doing something, it's like you need a little bit of support, but you don't like, okay, guys, everyone listening out there, this podcast thing isn't making us like hundreds and thousands of dollars. Like we're doing it because we really love it. And it's just helping us in all the other things that we're doing. And I know you feel that, Henry, for sure. And it's like, we need that support from the community that really loves it, just to send a message, and all that helps everyone so much. And then having someone in the background, like we have a couple people on our team now in the background that help us do all the things like produce and notes. And again, that came from you when I was thinking about Henry. I was like, Henry, like, how do you do this? And then you were like, Rory's the guy. And I was like, okay, we need to find our Rory, Bryan. We need our Rory right now. And we found her. She's amazing. Her name is Katie. She's the fucking best.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. And I want to say too, like how important like feedback and just good feedback is, like Henry, how you were saying, like you get a review and it's like, okay, we can keep going in this, or like it just makes you happy that like you're making something meaningful. And anybody out there, like we're all community like that. So if you like feel inclined to like really say some feedback, like do it. It means so much to Henry. It means so much, Pedro. It means so much to myself. Like that good feedback. Like we're really doing it for you all.
Yep. No doubt. No doubt.
And we're doing it because we want good feedback. Okay, so give us the feedback.
Yeah, we're doing it for 5-star feedback. So yes, go on there at 5 stars.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Oh man. Well, that's very interesting, Henry, and very cool that you were saying that at 108, that auspicious number. I love that you're gonna do your, maybe whatever happens from there. So good for you, man.
Yeah. Cool. So you guys are kind of like, you're new to the podcasting scene, but taking it by storm, and veterans of the social media scene. So I'm curious to hear what your latest takes are on how to balance social media with practicing yoga. Man. I ask that right now because this is a very critical time to be conscious of our social media consumption, where most of us are stuck at home. And if you're not, I highly recommend and urge you to stay home,
please,
for the concern of public health. It's not just about you. It's about not spreading the disease. So what do we do? Like, how do we make sure that we are using social media to our benefit and getting joy and connection out of it, rather than the total other end of the spectrum where we drop into comparison and despair?
Oh man, that's such a tough one. Bryan, you go first, man.
Yeah, it's such a tough, that's so tough right now. And I actually, last night, I was staying up late and I watched a YouTube video on cell phone addictions. Like, no joke. I watched a video.
Henry asked this question right now. This is so
it's like, Henry, are you looking at my YouTube history or something? Like,
I got the algorithm working for me. It's feeding me information.
Like, geez. But yeah, it's so as a creator, and I'm sure we can all relate, and anybody out there listening, if you're creating content, like we're on the apps and we're on social media like a lot. And especially right now, seeing like so much news and so much, I wouldn't say often, but sometimes fake news. And like, you don't just know what's accurate and what's not accurate. And I just want to go on and make memes. Like it's very hard for me to like balance like how much time I'm on my cell phone. And I have, starting today, I started like a batch system where I'll respond to text at certain times of the day. So I won't really look at my texts unless they're like emergencies or unless I get a call. Like I'll, respond a few times a day to my text, and then I will only go on social media certain parts of the day to like interact, respond back to DMs, make memes. So I'm just not like completely on there nonstop, because I don't know if y'all can relate. Like sometimes I'll go on Instagram, maybe I'll post a meme or maybe I'll respond back to a direct message, and then I go on like the rabbit hole of oh, this person said this, or like, oh, I need to watch this video. And then like an hour and a half later, I'm like, oh, yeah, I gotta do like actual work. So
yeah, I have a life to attend to over here.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just really like finding balance, I guess, like finding the right times to respond back, go on social media. How about you all?
Man.
I think that batching technique is super useful. Mm-hmm. I do that. Well, I've slipped away from it in recent times, but when I'm really on it, I do that with email too. I think it's really beneficial, because just like social media and direct messages, email is a unlimitedly renewing task. You can clear out your inbox and then they come back. The responses come back in. So you can never really finish it. Best to keep it contained to specific windows of time, I find.
Yeah. Did you get that from Tim Ferriss, Henry?
I may have. I mean, he's been a big influence on me in a lot of like kind of lifestyle design ways. I'm not sure where I heard that first, but could have been. Yeah, could have been there. That's
where I got it from, and I've been bad at it lately too. Because like it seems like, especially in the last 2 weeks, a lot of things have changed, and like there's like a lot of corresponding going on as everything is kind of shifting. But I think that the batching is super important. What I also did for me is like finding that balance is like I turned off my text notifications, because my texts are lit. I'm always like, that's how you do all my business communication is text. It's lit, man. Like I showed Bryan yesterday, 14 hours last week of texting, 14 hours. And I was like, holy smokes, man. Like, what's going on? So, and I had my notifications off and I had 14 hours of texting. So I don't understand. I got to figure that out. But on a side note, it's like I have no notifications that pop up on my phone at all, zero. And so it's my choice to go in and go down the rabbit hole. Like, I'm the one making those decisions, and I'm now, like, just in very recent times, I'm aware that I'm the one that's making that decision and that I have the power to not do or to do that, to go down the social media rabbit hole. And with these times that are ever changing and evolving, it's like, what are you putting in front of your face? Because that's really what that's what you're consuming. It's like, what do you want to be consuming, and just be mindful of it. And it's, while everyone's holed up at home, everybody's trying to get your attention now because everyone's at home. So everyone's trying to pull your attention from their phone. Like, all your yoga teachers, all your health and fitness people, they all want you to take their online class or buy their course or start going to their group, which is great. Like, everyone's starting to create, because everyone has to do it, because that's how you're going to be able to connect with people right now. So just be mindful of, like, where you're placing your energy, and what you really want to be doing, because you have the choice from your own home right now. You have the choice to do whatever it is that you want to do on your phone. Like, you're in control, and just be aware that you're the one in control.
Yeah, and not getting into the comparing yourself to what others are doing. Comparing yourself, this person's doing a Zoom class, like I need to do a Zoom class, or I need to do like online yoga. Like it's really, for me, it's a good time to personally meditate more, get quiet more, be off social media more, even though I'm still on there quite a bit, but a time to really just like connect and just be still from what I'm learning with what's going on right now. And especially like some of the techniques that I'm using. Like I just want to mention one technique that really helped me out today was put my phone to a black and white scale. Because the colors and the apps, and like when you go on Instagram or when you go on social media, like all the colors just get your eye.
Alluring.
Yeah, they're so alluring, right? So when I put it, when there's times that I don't want to go on my phone, I'll put it to that black and white, that grayscale, and like I'll go on and I'm like, I'm over it. Like I can't see any color. Like I don't even know which app I'm clicking on. Like it helps during times that I don't really want to look at my phone, because I know that there's so many people out there struggling with like cell phone addiction. Like it's a real thing. Like I get caught up in it.
So are you doing that just proactively, or do you like catch yourself? You're like, hey, wait a minute, I've spent way too much time on here and I need to take matters in my own hands. So let me put on the grayscale now and focus on something else? Or do you just like keep it like that by default now?
Yeah, I just keep it. Well, today, like after last night, I was just getting like really stressed out just with what's going on and with how much time I've been spending on, social media, and how much time I've actually been spending on my phone, and just my overall stress level, that last night I kind of hit a breaking point where I'm like, I possibly have a problem with like being on my cell phone too much. And Pedro kind of planted the seed with how much, like he showed me a screenshot of like how much he was on his phone. And then I looked to see like how much I'm on my texts. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, because with the show and with group texts and with work, like there's always something on your phone. Like
always,
like Henry, how you were saying, like with email, there's always a problem. There's always something that you have to respond to. Right. And it's like, I need to like have, and I feel like I'm not focused in the moment and I'm forgetting things. So I need to like go back to like a batch, like, hey, at 9 a.m, I'm going to respond back to all my texts. I'm going to be fully present in responding back to all my texts. And then this time I'm going to respond back to my email. This time I'm going to go make a meme and respond back to every single person for the first like hour that responds to the comments. So I'm just more mindful and focused and more productive in my day.
And I think that's like a secret benefit that gets revealed once you start doing it, is actually how much more efficient your usage of time becomes when you do that.
For sure.
It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, it's deceiving um how much burden there is of like cognitive load between multitasking and shifting from thing to thing and back and forth over and over again. And if you actually focus on one thing at a time, it opens up all this space which you can then use to do something new, or do something more deeply in one of the previous things that you've done.
I love it. Yeah, exactly. More deeply and more fully, and like really coming back to that yoga, that more mindfulness. Like today when I was working on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this time where I'm like fully present texting everybody, compared to like texting the group back and then going on Instagram and like trying to respond to direct messages, and then like trying to go to the Facebook show page that we're doing, and then trying to do this, and I'm just like all over the place, and I'm like just trying to get things done and like checking off the boxes, and I'm not even like really there. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
How are you guys doing with your practice right now? Like, I know that you're teaching online, so your service is up, just as ever.
Yeah.
But without being able to leave your homes, like, are you still able to stay with the integrity of your practice? How's that going for you?
So I'll go first. So for me, I only practice at home these days. So it really hasn't
Okay.
changed for me. I mean, I have 3 kids, and I have, I just don't have the opportunity to go out to practice at a studio. So it hasn't really changed for me. Except I've actually been doing more, because now I was teaching out in public classes 3 to 4 times a week. And I wouldn't really ever practice with them when I would teach. Like, I would just teach. But now that I'm teaching online, and I'm teaching every day online as of now, I'm actually practicing with them. And so it's like, now I'm like doing doubles. And so like, I'm
because you've got your practice and then you teach
yes,
and practice along.
Yeah. And when I practice in the morning now, I'll just do like 20-30 minutes in the morning, some breathing, some moving, and then I'll do a meditation after that. So it's like a 45 minute to an hour routine in the morning. But at when I teach at night, it's an hour class that I'm demoing and teaching. And I don't ever do that. I always just like teach when I teach. So like demoing and teaching is definitely a learning curve there. Definitely a learning curve on that. Like realizing like I can't go like 100% on the extra chaturangas and stuff, because then I have to talk. I have to talk the whole time. So kudos to like the teachers out there that have been teaching online. Like they have kind of gotten it figured it out. So I'm just learning, and I can't breathe for shit. Ask Brian. So I'm trying to really figure it out here, and so I can hold the space and it sounds good and all that stuff. So yeah. But
I've been like I've really been diving deep into my meditation practice, and like even experimenting with qigong, actually, just to try and like calm the nerves like during this time. Like yoga really helps me too, but I've just been like actually exploring different practices, and especially like breath work and breathing and little qigong too. But it has been tough because like I'm forgetting what days it is. Like I think it was like Friday. I was like, oh, I have the weekend, but I've been like home the whole time. Like, what day is it? And it's been weird. Like
a little bit
I'm loving
Groundhog
walks.
Day.
I'm loving like going out like for walks, definitely social distancing, but like, man, it's so nice to get outside sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Henry?
Yeah, especially if you're meditating all the time too. That's another reason to, or I guess another factor in making you feel less grounded. And if you've got just like you're swirling up in your head, plus you don't know what day of the week it is, it's like what really is going on,
right? Yeah, I've been like really going to like teachers too, like David, like going and watching David G. and Tara Brock. I watched something on her YouTube today that was just like so like grounding for me. It was like her welcome video on there, just talking about fear and talking about like how to be a community, like things like that really help me out. Just like trying to get like community and seeing what other people are doing, because we're all in this together. I mean, we're all in this together.
Everybody.
Yeah, literally everyone. I mean, we've been like yoga teachers have been saying that for a long time, but when you have a global pandemic on your hand, everybody sees it. Like we are physically, physiologically connected. Our health and well-being is connected.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you doubted it before, it's clear now.
Yeah, it's definitely clear as day right now.
Exactly. And that's why, like, I hope that, just like the panic settles and, like, we just kind of get more into like community thinking, because I think this is a huge like shock and shift to think like we're all going to go buy all the toilet paper, or we're all like in this like just on our own. And then as we're sitting here like contemplating and like going online and just seeing like we are all going through this together.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I feel that so hard.
Get little emotional.
Yeah, it gets a little emotional. We're all reflecting here.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, oh shit, man, like dead air. But I don't think it's like dead air. It's like just a moment of us thinking like, holy shit, like we really.
Yeah, it's real.
It's the real deal. Yeah, it's the real deal.
Yeah, but Pedro, you turned the question back on me.
Yeah,
and I'll say that my practice, I would say, has gotten stronger. Since this has all gone down. Partly because, like it cleared up all this space on my schedule and I could really just go in on my practice. But it's not just the time. I think it's also like the gravity of the situation. Like I'm really leaning on my practice to help me process everything that's happening and how it's kind of like challenging my sense of identity. And yeah, there's a lot to deal with right now, emotionally, physically, and now more than ever, we need our practice to help us understand that and deal, just like handle it. Mm-hmm. Even if we don't get answers, like just to like put your hands on it, work with it, and feel like you're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Because like deep down inside, no matter what anybody's saying, like people are scared as shit out there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm getting a little emotional too, but it's like people are scared out there, and we all feel that. Like we all feel that. All of us deep down inside.
Yeah.
And it's like coming back to that practice is like, what is like the foundation? Like this, the time where we really can dig deep and use our practice.
Yeah. I was listening to someone else say that, Brian. Amazing that you said that. Also just about like you've been doing the work to prepare for something like this. Like you've been on the path, you've been doing the inner work, to be able to handle something like this and to overcome and to persevere. We've been doing the work. It's not like we haven't been, and here we are. So now we have to lean into it, lean into the things that we know that help provide clarity, that help us find peace, and to help us connect with others and raise the vibration of the world, because the world needs yoga teachers. The world needs whoever you are, even if you're not a yoga teacher, like whatever you do, like the world needs that,
Yes.
So share that with them. Figure out a way to share it with them. Don't matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing to share their gift. Just how are you going to share your gift to help raise the vibration of the world when somebody needs it?
Yes. Well, let's flip the script. Henry, what are you doing like during this time where you like feeling scared? Like when you feel scared or you feel uncertain, like what's your go-to practice?
Well, I think there are certain things that I do to try to prevent that from happening, just staying pretty routine and disciplined about doing my practice in the morning. But lo and behold, the death grip of anxiety and despair does set in, despite best efforts to prevent it. And I actually went to a pretty dark place yesterday, and maybe the same time you did, Brian. There maybe it's just something in the astrology or just in the collective energy. Who knows? I don't try to figure out why these things happen so much as just deal with them and see what I can take away from it in the aftermath. And the thing that was most helpful for me was to talk it out with my wife. And I know like this is a really difficult thing to try to replicate especially in a time like this when we're supposed to not be interacting physically with another person. Fortunately, we're like a unit. My wife and I, we don't keep the 6 feet distance, because if she gets it, I'm going to get it and we'll contain it, whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, having a real connection, it just underscores how important that really is. Because when you're in those trying times and you can't, basically my own ability to be there for myself had dropped out, like the floor had dropped out from underneath. So I needed someone else to catch me.
Yep.
So that's what I do. I don't know if you would call that a practice or just that's part of human condition.
Right there. It's like human condition. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
I love
it really
that, man.
is.
I love that, man. To be able to, I'm the same thing with my wife. It's like when there's sometimes, you got to be there for them and they're there for you. It's like someone to lean on. Like that song. I need somebody to lean on. Don't Rory, edit that shit out. But for real though, it's like you have somebody that's there, and for the person out there that's like I don't have any, like maybe they don't have someone physically that's there, you have somebody there that somebody out there cares about you. Send them a message. If you're feeling down and out, send somebody a message. Everyone is in this together and they will be there to lift you up. Send them a message.
Okay, here's my question for you guys.
Let's do it.
This is obviously a really dark time for mankind, and I think the optimist in all of us wants to believe that we're going to be better for it once we get to the other side. So my question is, what do you think our takeaway is going to be when all of this is said and done, and we have the option to resume to normalcy? What do you think is going to change with more of a lasting impact?
Wow, that's a big question. Brian, you want
to
go first?
Give more hugs.
Yeah.
More hugs. That might sound cheesy, but it's man, it is. I don't know. I personally miss going to a yoga class.
Mm-hmm.
I personally miss just being out and just the simple things. And I'm sure we all miss just some of the simple things. So maybe coming back to that gratitude of man, it is nice to go out to the park, take my dog to the park and just be around these random strangers. Even me as an introvert, I'm thinking this,
Introvert AF.
It's nice being around people, but it's the little things.
Yeah.
What do you think, Pedro?
I think it's twofold, right? So I think there's going to be two pretty big takeaways that will come from this. Is number one is going to be, yes, once you're able to settle back into your communities of people and be around them, whether it's in your workspace, whether it's your family that you're not seeing right now, your yoga community, whatever that community is, it's going to be, you're going to have this extra sense of gratitude, like you said, Brian, to be able to give them a hug and not worry, not be fearful, or to go to the store and help somebody out that maybe needs an extra hand, or so people will be more, I'm hoping, more human, and more open and kind. The other thing that I will think will change a lot is in the digital age of realizing that virtual reality is coming at some point. And maybe this is the liftoff for virtual reality in all things, not just now. I know the show is a lot about yoga, but not just in yoga, but in all things, that you can create this sense of community. It's already been happening all over the globe. You can have this sense of community on these Facebook groups and private this and that. I think there's just going to be way more of that on the back end. And people are going to realize, I don't necessarily have to always go to a physical place, a brick and mortar place, that I can actually do more things from the comfort of my own home. Amazon kicked that off by delivering stuff to your house in 2 days and then 1 day. But now it's people can deliver other things wellness, whatever, anything that can be digital through online, courses. You don't have to go out and sign up for something and get on a plane and fly somewhere. WebEx, Zoom, those companies are going to be killing it now and after this for sure, because you can do it. The global scale of creating community is going to be larger and you're going to feel the effect of it. I think people were doing it before, but now that you can't go outside and hang out with people at a party, you have to do it on Zoom, that you're going to be able to you're willing to embrace the fact that I can do this in a technology-based way virtually, and sometimes it's just way more convenient to do that way. So I think there's going to be a lot more people leaning onto the convenience of technology and virtual stuff going after the back end.
And I love that too, because like Pedro lives in Florida, and I could take a class with him now. Like I don't have to go like fly out there and like go to the beach and like experience one of his classes. And like I'm happy that like there's more yoga teachers that I follow on Instagram or follow on social media that are going more online, because then I can just go take a class with them. Like on Saturday morning, I can just wake up and like I can take a class with them. And yes,
just roll out of bed.
That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And I can take Henry's class.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. You sure can.
What do you think, Henry?
I hear everything you're saying. I think I've been thinking a lot about that too, and I like the way that you framed it. Like Amazon did it with products. Like they made it so you didn't necessarily need to go to the convenience store or the bookstore or whatever. But we're at a new frontier with that right now, and it remains to be seen whether society will embrace this. But essentially, now we're trying to. Or we're not really trying to, out of necessity, there's no other option. So people are creating community in a digital space. And yeah, that already existed too with social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, but always as a complement versus as a substitute.
Yes, correct.
And people need that. Like it's a part of our basic needs to be connected to others. And in the absence of physical in-person live connection, like what can we do with what we have right now? Unfortunately, our technology is advanced enough that we have something that resembles that. And if it sticks, if people see that this is something that fulfills that need, then I agree with you. After things can go back to normal, people will continue to fall back on communities like this, because for the limitations that it does have in like physical proximity, it also makes up for it in other ways. Mm-hmm. Like we can have communities that are based on mutual interest rather than just physical location. Like, and that opens up a lot of new relationships that can be very deep.
Yeah. So many.
Yeah. And there's still so many people not practicing yoga and meditation out there. And when I've like looked at stats on, whenever you hear like the yoga market is saturated, it's like, well, saturated with just the people that are practicing yoga. There's so many people that aren't practicing yoga, right? And why aren't they practicing yoga? Maybe because they live in a town where there's not a yoga studio, or maybe they just don't want to take that 45-minute commute just to do an hour class. Like now they can just get out of bed on Monday morning or Wednesday morning or weekend, and they can just go do yoga with their favorite like yoga teacher and just go and do yoga, and they have yoga right there. So it's like, yeah, we hear the market saturated, but it's like saturated to the people that actually practice yoga. There's so many people not practicing yoga yet. And you take that convenience of going online, you take that convenience and you remove all that friction to get to the yoga studio, and boom.
Yeah.
And not saying like yoga studios like are like going obsolete, whatever. Like people still need that. There's so many, there's abundance. The world, the universe is abundance. Like people need different things.
Yeah. To piggyback on that real quick, Bryan. So I'm able to, I'm able to practice. My mom's been practicing with me. I've done it. I've taught yoga on Zoom here the last 5-6 days, and my mom's been able to practice with me from Chicago like every day. And it's like, holy shit! Like my mom's able to do yoga with me, and like that wasn't happening. That wasn't happening before. It's like, oh my gosh! Like, awesome. So in 3 months, if things return to a sense of normal, like, how am I going to stop teaching yoga on my Zoom? Like, I'm not going to be able to connect with my mom like I have been for the last 3 months. There's no way I'm going to cut that shit out. Like, there's no way,
Right.
So, and like all these other people, like there's no way. And what's really cool, guys, teaching it on Zoom, everybody has their video off. You say namaste at the end. This is what I'm doing anyway. Say namaste at the end. And then, you offer people to turn their video on. and like type in the chat, and all of a sudden, like you see your screen light up with everyone's like turning on their videos, and you see all of these people that you know personally. Some of them I don't know personally. And then, we type in the chat. Some people are chatting back and forth. It's kind of like, it's again, a new technology kind of thing. Everyone's talking over each other, but there's a chat, and there's like, we just did a yoga together, and now we can like even look at each other like, holy shit, there's actually people here that we did this together. We created this together. How cool, So
Very cool.
Just my 2 cents.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. I think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
One other thing that I'll add on that I'm hopeful is going to carry through past this period is, and I guess I can only really speak from my own experience, but I've really taken a look at my level of consumption of things. And I've already been sort of minimalistic, but right now with like the toilet paper shortage and not wanting to go to the grocery store for fear of being a contaminator or spreader of the virus and all of this, I've been much more conscious of like, what are the things that we actually need? Let's plan ahead and not just like buy anything willy-nilly out of convenience, but be more of a conscious consumer. And I think that is exactly what we need. That's what our planet is craving now.
Exactly, Henry.
And I don't know, part of me thinks like, I definitely don't want to, I want to be very careful about my language with this, because I know that people are suffering tremendously and people are going to die. I mean, we can't understate like how much that can really affect the loved ones of those people. But there really could be a silver lining in all of this if it changes the way people respect and interact with our environment, with our planet.
Yeah, I hear you on that, being cautious of the language, and just, it's not that we're like, it's understanding that unfortunately in this moment, like death is inevitable with what's happening. And it always is, but with this it just seems like it's in front of you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, in front of you, and it's on your mind all the time in this moment for me too. And, but seeing that people are coming together, people are being aware of like their actions, and that their actions, the people that are aware, like people that are like woke, let's call it, or that are waking up, are like aware that their actions are really impacting everybody else around them,
yes.
That their actions. And so hopefully at the end of this thing, they've realized like, okay, they did the self-quarantine, like who knows what happens next week or next hour. Everything's changing so fast right now.
So fast.
So quick. But the one thing that I will say for sure is that at the end of this thing, people will realize like the actions that they've taken have made an impact. Their decision made an impact. So maybe when things simmer down and slow down, that they'll continue to be mindful of their actions, knowing that that's still affecting everyone else the same way that it was during the crisis. It's still affecting,
and it always has been.
And it always has been. You just didn't think about it, or you just weren't aware of it. But now that you are, like, you can't unknow the things that you know. You can't. So let's hope that continuum of energy fuels the planet in a more healthy, mindful living way.
Yes.
Boom.
Amen.
Boom.
Amen. Amen to that.
I think that's a great sentiment to wrap the podcast episode up on. But before we completely say goodbye, Pedro has been on the show before, so he's done this before. I want to give the prana round to Bryan.
Oh,
what do you say, Bryan?
Give it to Bryan. Yeah, to Bryan. Yeah, Bryan only prana round. It's all for Bryan.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's all about Bryan today. Bryan's in the spotlight. Okay. The prana round works like this. I'm going to give you 6 rapid fire questions. Please answer minimum 1 word, maximum 1 sentence. All right?
Yeah. Got it. Can't wait.
Okay. In 1 word, why do you practice yoga?
Freedom.
What is your favorite yoga pose and why?
Pigeon. It gets all the emotions out.
Bro, you're a fucking liar. It's Pincha Mayurasana.
What is the single best cue or piece of advice that you've ever received from one of your yoga teachers?
You create your own reality.
All right. Recommend 1 book. It can be modern or ancient for the listeners.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Nice. Okay. Dr. Joe Dispenza. Yes. All right. Is yoga for everyone?
Yes.
A resounding yes. And final question. This is for the two of you. How can our audience get in touch with you, and how can we support you in your Dharma?
Go, Pedro.
So you can check out theyogishow.com. That's where Bryan and I host our podcast. And on theyogishow.com, you'll be able to find everything, how to connect with Bryan and I, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. So theyogishow.com would direct you to us. And that would be wonderful, Henry, if you could let people know that. We thank you so much, man. It's been great. And food for thought. I don't read any books. And it's funny enough, Bryan recommends a Dr. Joe Dispenza book. And Henry, when I was on your show, I recommended a different Dr. Joe Dispenza book. You Are the Placebo.
You Are the Placebo?
Yeah. Did you ever read that by any chance?
I have, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I love that book. So those two books, my friends, by Dr. Joe Dispenza, life-changing for me and obviously Bryan. So definitely those two, super impactful.
Yes. And Henry, your book.
Excuse me?
Yeah, which one's your favorite?
What's your favorite book?
Oh man, my favorite book. Well, I'll recommend man, you turned the tables on me.
He's never had anyone ask him.
Sorry. I want to know. I want to know personally.
Well, since we spoke about Tim Ferriss earlier, I have to say the 4-Hour Work Week. Although many of the things in there are, they were a time capsule in a way. They're a little bit outdated, but the spirit of what's described and what he's getting at is timeless. And I do recommend it for anyone who wants to be more intentional about the way that they live.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely the way they live.
Love
and
it.
definitely the way they work, especially if you work for yourself, entrepreneur, like one-man band, like get that book immediately.
Get it immediately. All right, guys. Thank you so much. It's been cool talking to you. I feel like this connection really enlivened my spirit in this time. So I benefited personally from it, and I'm sure that our guests will, or our listeners will too. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Henry.
Dharma Talkers, I hope you enjoyed listening to that conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. And if you did, please share it. Take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, and tag me @HenryWins. I love hearing from you about the conversations that make an impact for you. We have the ability to shape the world through our thoughts, words, and conversation. So let's influence the collective consciousness together. All my gratitude to Rory Wagstaff of Ease of Mind Productions for keeping our audio crisp and operations smooth, and to Patrick Kiebzak of Momentology Music and Art for supplying the powerful soundtrack to these conversations. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review, and tune in to new episodes of Dharma Talk every Thursday. I'll speak to you next week, and until then, keep living your Dharma.